The 23rd of June, which the United Nations set aside for recognition and propagation of actions towards achieving the full rights of widows around the world, might have come and gone, but you would agree with me that just one day in a year is not enough to speak on issues which affect about 258 million women with over 584 million offspring, according to the World Widows Report, and they are scattered all around the world, going through one difficulty or the other because of the death of their partners. This episode of Big Story will therefore beam the light on the widows, but this time we will focus on Nigeria, women who have lost their spouses and are left with a burden to cater for their children, and sometimes they have to deal with very unfriendly cultural demands. That's our story. You're welcome. I'm Amy John Mekwa. Widowhood has not treated Veronica Patel well. It's been 6 years since her husband died of hypertension, according to her, without pre-knowledge of the health challenge. After the rent expired in their former accommodation, she has had to move around quite a bit before ending up here in Orile-Agege area of Lagos. Not an area she would have loved to stay, but her options are very limited. Mrs. Peter lives in this single room with her 6 children. 4 of them were born before the death of her husband, the late Amos Peter, and 2, a set of twins, 3 months after the death of their father.
After my husband died, I didn't have money to pay house rent. That is how the man gave me quick notice. From there, here and there, I pack off for there. The house I enter again. The man has been asking me to go out with him. As I did not agree, he started fighting me. After 1 year, he pushed me out. Before I rent, even the rent of this house, I borrowed money. That is 86,000. I pay 40,000, remain 46 now. This one too expire. That is July 31st. I'll pay the house rent for this place where we are now. Since when my husband died, it has been here for me and my children.
Properties from their former house, which was bigger than this one, occupies most of the space here, and 7 of them have to fit into the leftover space.
Sometimes, even though there is light, fan blow, it's like we are inside oven. Sometimes, everything's like, everywhere is bumping, as in, it's like the room is not accommodative. As in, it's not okay for me and my children. Because if all of them, because the first one is 14 years, the other one is 13 years, the other one is 12 years, and 11 years, and because they came back now everywhere, it's like I should run outside to stay. Because it's not okay. No, see, as it is small like this, just they manage it.
Mrs. Peter says before the demise of her husband, she owned a shop where she sews and sells textile and accessories, but sustaining the business is now difficult.
I have shop. That is, I did not have money to buy market in the shop. Even I hold them almost 2 years and 6 months now. They have gave me quick notice for the shop. That I didn't afford to pay the place, I should quit. I know where to pack my load because I have machine there. So even the machine is not that okay again, but I didn't know where to pack it in. I didn't have any market at all for shop. I sew clothes, but I dey buy this sample lace, they sew blouse, they sell go aswani, they go do mota, they buy material, but no money.
All of this with 6 children to cater for without assistance from in-laws or family members.
They are going to public school. Even this money gone, they didn't eat before they go to school. As they're coming back from school now, this one is crying that he's hungry. But I hope that God will provide what they will eat. Sometimes that is how it be. Sometimes you think even eat sleep for straight. So one certain time, it was this girl that even saved me. I buy Ota pepper already. I want to, because life has already tired me. No food, no money, nobody, no help. Even some people, they are trying to help me. say I won't end you. They will try to send something before the end of thing. I didn't hear anything again.
While the challenge of Mrs. Veronica Patel is economical, there are other issues which seem tied to the fiber of Nigerian culture. Mrs. Rose Okafo enjoyed a blissful marriage for 26 years with 2 children, but that did not cover her from a 4-month compulsory mourning tradition, which she describes as dehumanizing.
There's what they call the first burial and the second burial. The first burial was the one where the corpse is being interred. That's when the mourning, the counting of the mourning for the widow starts. So after the first burial, I was supposed to go after a month to remove the clothes, a particular clothes I am wearing, which I must not wash at the daytime. I don't comb my hair. I don't go to public places. I don't go to the market. I am restricted at a place. I was told I'll be sleeping on either a bare floor. I don't sit on the couch. I don't sleep on the bed. I don't go to the market. I don't go to any public function. I was only allowed to go to church because I told them I'm a Christian. After about, when it was 3 months plus, I traveled back home. I was told they read the riot act again. They called the daughters of the land. They called them the Umuada. They said there's what they call Egunyi Fenaka. I wouldn't know what that means. But I know when they came, they were the one reading the riot act, that henceforth, anything I eat with, anything I touch must be burnt. I was kind of ostracized. I don't bathe. I bathe as early as 5 a.m. Nobody must see me bathing. I don't wash my clothes and sun it. No. I remain without clothes for like the 7 last days before my hair was shaved. I was confined in a room. So the morning go on. I was just praying. In fact, I was fed like a dog. I was not happy about it. I was not comfortable with it. But I was told if I don't, I and my children will be banished out of the land. So I asked and I was told to do it. That is a kind of playing your innocency in the death of your husband.
Interestingly, in the same area, men who lose their wives are not subjected to the rigorous mourning process. At most, their movement and socialization is restricted to their immediate environment for about a month, after which they can continue living normally.
They built an hut opposite my husband's grave, and they told me that once at the first Okoro, I should come out, cry around the grave until my mates that are married in that village comes out to join me. I should scream, cry at the top of my voice while they come out to join me. And from that 2 a.m. that I came out, I cried, and some people was coming out. They were coming out in twos and like that, and they joined me. So this very thatch that they built opposite my husband's grave, that was during the last days of my mourning. I slept there. I came out at exactly 2 a.m. I sat there. They set firewood. The thing was burning. I was told never to move out. I must not go out of that place until my hair is being shaved. But I wasn't cool with it. I sat there all through from 2 a.m., don't forget, till about 4 p.m. when the daughters of the land came to shave my hair. I told you they set a fire burning right in front of me. I was asked to pull everything I was wearing, including my undies. As I was pulling, they were throwing it inside the fire. They shaved my hair. They threw it inside the fire. They shaved everything, threw them inside the fire, both the clothes. I was just left with the one I'm tying on my chest. So they brought out plastic. They asked me to bathe outside there. 4 p.m., like I said. That is Nigerian time. So I asked why. Can't I just use the bedroom? They said no, that this is a sign that I have severed the relationship. I have bathed off the last contact, the body contact I have with my husband. It must be done publicly because the marriage was constituted publicly. So they have to do this publicly.
Matters get even worse for Mrs. Okafo as she lost her daughter 9 months after the death of her husband, and she says she's had to bury her daughter alone. Now she lives in a room apartment with her only surviving son and says there's hardly any concern to their welfare shown by her in-laws.
And it's not up to 4 months that I finished mourning. I lost my daughter.
The Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, adopted in 1979 by the United Nations General Assembly, which Nigeria is a signatory to, is often described as an international bill of rights for women, and it seeks to ensure elimination of all acts of discrimination against women by persons, organizations, or enterprises.
There's no doubt about it that there are lots of harmful traditional and cultural practices that are demeaning to widows. And widows have been disrespected. They've suffered all sorts of discrimination. Some of them have been ostracized. A lot of them got depressed. And finally, we even had one that committed suicide. Widowhood rights, their rights are just like human rights. And those widows out there should know that there's a fundamental human right that is enshrined in our Constitution, that right of dignity, that right that one cannot lose one's self-esteem and confidence. So rights that for a widow to be kept in a place, it's not going to bathe, not going to see any sunlight. You use old plates, old dishes that are not good to serve such a widow food. So that person has a right. That person should insist that there's that right of dignity. There's that fundamental human rights of freedom that she can move, she can decide to go to the church, she can decide to go to the mosque, she can interact with anybody. And widows are not properties that one could acquire. And I think that what has kept this barbaric practice ongoing is the fact that a lot of our widows keep mute. And I tell our widows, silence is not golden. They must speak up. If they go through excruciating difficulties, at the end, if such a widow dies, such a person must be branded as a witch. So the moment you know that all that is enshrined in our Constitution, all the freedom that we have, the widows are entitled to such. Is it inheritance? Is it movement? Is it the right to say, no, I cannot be acquired? I have a right, I want to live my life. And it doesn't necessarily mean that because the husband of a particular woman dies, the younger brother or another person will go and acquire such a person. So we have even property. There is, in inheritance, too, are one. And we always encourage some of our women to that. When they get married, let's try as much as possible to formalize the relationship. Because if it is not formalized, when anything goes wrong, God forbid, then that a person, in such a situation, such a person cannot have anything to hold on to. That is in terms of law, except some of the interventions through the religious circle, to just plead to the conscience of those people that we cannot let this woman go without anything.
The United Nations says that nearly 1 in 10 of the over 258 million widows in the world live in extreme poverty, and this is not because the women are not hardworking, but it is birthed from incidents such as the experience of Mrs. Blessing or Sosua, who says that although she was the next of kin to her husband who worked in the bank for 10 years before he died, her in-laws cheated her out of the money which could have served as a foundation to begin life with. They had 2 children.
A week after they buried my husband on a Monday because he's a young person. He died at 36. Because he's a young person, and they said, and he's the first son, the father called me that what they are going to give to me, the bank is going to give to me, are going to do apportionment. He was meant to be paid some amount of money, and till now they did not pay. I was the next of kings. They had called me, signed the document and everything. For me to call and say, okay, the very fateful day I was meant to receive the alert or come and pick up the check to sign off for the check. I went there, they said they could not find the name in the system, and I raised alarm. In the process, an insider told me with confidence, because I sued them, I involved the legal practitioner in Keyamo and Keyamo chamber. And I had one of his friends that resigned from Zenith Bank. He helped me out. They called me, the legal department called me and said they checked the system. I found out that an insider that happened to be a management staff, a top management staff, happened to be his uncle, signed off that money to his father. And I cried out. But people around just told me I should just keep calm, that money will go. I should just have my peace. And that is it. Till now, I've been carrying the burden to train the children.
Mrs. Osazua says she was 2 months pregnant when her husband died, and now without a job at hand and entitlement from her husband, Saka came to her at the lowest level of her life through Rose of Sharon Foundation, which caters for the education requirements of her 2 children. She's obviously one of the fortunate widows, because if they venture out into the commercial world to get loans, another challenge resurfaces. Parenting is another challenge which the loss of a spouse poses. Children who normally require the input of a father and mother are now left with just one parent.
Like 2 weeks ago, one of the widows called me that her son is in 300 level, only for her to discover that he has over 17 carryovers. And each time in the past that he will call the boy, I want to come to your school, the boy will warn her not to try that, he should not visit the school. But I know if he's a father, there is nothing that your son that you are paying the school fees for will tell you not to come to my school, not to call my lecturer, not to investigate, that will make you to. The more reason he's telling you not to come, the more reason you should be able to begin to think that something must be going wrong. So she called, she was crying, and then I said, okay, you need to visit the school. And when he told the boy said, don't come. So she has to now call the pastor to get involved. And then the pastor apparently has someone in the school. So they now had to go through the person to get to know the real issue that the boy is facing, why all this carryover and all of that. So we have a lot of them like that. One of them was even beating her mother at a time. So we summoned her to the office. We constitute a team of senior staff to counsel the person.
Morals and values are mostly passed on to members of the society in Nigeria through religious bodies, which is why many have left a part of the responsibility of caring for the needs of the widows at their doorstep.
The church can still do more by making sure that they see to their welfare, whatever they can do. We know that they cannot do everything. But if it is to be giving them money or food stuff every month, they will know that something is coming from somewhere for them. Like those that did not have good job before their husband died. And the government can also do more by making sure that those who have their fathers and their mothers around, When they pay something, they should be able to lessen the fatherless home or the orphans. They should be able to give them, even if possible, scholarship. If they can give them scholarship, there's nothing wrong in it.
Running an inclusive government so their voices and needs are captured in policies is another suggestion in giving succor to the widows in Nigeria. At the moment, though, it seems there are even less women involved in governance, so the present hope is that the men will become more conscious of the need to empower women.
My understanding is that once you can empower the woman, you can actually take care of so many areas in the society. They are the one that is always there for the children, look after the children. The men are always busy. Permit me to say that personally, I feel the women are actually more committed to family. They appear to be more responsible than the men. That is not to say that men are not responsible, but from my own perception and experience to date, I feel that empowering women will go a long way to actually stabilize the family and stabilize the society. But the challenge we've always had is the fact that we feel that everything should actually just be given to us on a platter of gold. That's actually the human mentality, but nobody does that. It will never happen anywhere. Even in the Christian faith, there must be a body that is designated for widow or women for attention to be given. Once you don't create the structure that can drive it, it's more like a form of coalition or registration where different widows can be registered. And then you know that in this local government, in this ward, we have this many widows. It's something that I know the faith-based organization have tried to do, but there's really no data to say, oh, we have X, Y number of widows. But the way we can give attention is let the Ministry of Women Affairs have some form of data where all the widows can be registered. And anyone who is interested in helping, either at the ward level or at the local government level, you have a data to work with. If, for instance, I say X, Y amount is released for widow, it's going to be misappropriated, because how do you now come about who in the area or in the location you're going to focus on to give this amount of money or the support that is required to. So there has to be some form of statistics, and I believe the Women Affairs Ministry, all states have a Women Affairs Ministry, can actually do that.
But there are some vacuums which cannot be filled in the life of widows, which is why they ask that the material part be given great consideration by the society.
I can remember when I lost my husband, I was in and out of hospital. I was having constant treatment, I wasn't getting better. So it was more of my emotions was already affecting my health. So it had a lot of things together that comes with the grief and the sorrow you go through. I won't dispute that it's a lot of work, because most times when I just realize I'm the only one in it, sometimes I get really angry. So I just have a lot of emotions that go through my mind. You know, looking at my boys, I feel they need a father figure, at least to guide them as well. I miss companionship. You know, you come home, nobody to talk to, just and the kids. So most I just go into the room and just look for something else to do, at least to distract my mind. That's basically, I miss the companionship. Aside the other obvious challenges, but at least somebody around to talk to most times when you need to share some things. You don't have that kind of person around anymore.
Many have also said that writing and implementation of wills should be embraced by more Nigerians. This would, to a large extent, protect the needs of especially the children in the event of the loss of a breadwinner. Well, that's our story for this episode. Don't forget that we always want to hear from you through our social media platforms, and you can watch even all the episodes of Big Story on Channels Television YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.